La ville de Dieppe reconnaît que la terre sur laquelle elle tient ses activités fait partie du territoire ancestral traditionnel non cédé des Mi'kmaq. Ceci étant dit, chers collègues, ayons la sérénité de...
Let's have the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thank you. The time of the year has come for major decisions, and this evening's is an important meeting in our calendar because we will be voting to adopt the 2024 budget. And once again this year, we are proposing a lower tax rate and a freeze on the water and sewer charges. This is possible because of the significant growth we continue to experience and because of the sound management of our finances. I would like to thank City Council and staff for continuing to believe in the progress of our municipality, and above all, for constantly striving to offer an exceptional quality of life to our residents. And I would now like to give the floor to our CAO, Mr. Melançon. Thank you, Your Worship. And as I mentioned when we presented the operating budgets, if our proposals for 2024 are in line with the priorities of the Municipal Council, the strategic plan, and the master plan. This is what has helped us to come up with the budget that we are going to recommend. While in order to continue to offer quality services to the residents, we have also invested in the environment, urban mobility, housing, Francophone immigration, and the future development of Dieppe. As you mentioned, the increase in our tax base has enabled us to absorb the costs associated with the population growth and to lessen the impact of the provincial government's increase in property assessments by lowering our tax rate for a third consecutive year. Now, as for the new territory, the former LSDs of Greater Lakeburn and Scoudouc, we are staying the course with the increases provided for in the catch-up plan. However, the amount of the catch-up rate has been reduced this year, which is good news for our new residents. And on that, a little later, our treasurer will be presenting the key figures for the adoption of the 2024 budget under item 7.3 of the agenda for your decision, and that is very similar to what we presented during the budget deliberations during the two previous evenings at Council. So we're very pleased this evening, Your Worship. Thank you. And just a reminder that this evening's session will proceed in French, but if anybody needs interpretation services, you can get a headset at the back of the room.
Do our meetings in French. There are some translation devices at the back of the room, if you so inclined. Alors, encore une fois, bienvenue.
Once again, welcome. We will now confirm the quorum. Yes, we have quorum. And are there any conflicts of interest to declare? Nothing for this evening. Thank you. Let's move on to the adoption of the agenda then. Who would like to move the adoption? It's been moved by Councillor Brideau, seconded by Councillor Leboutillier on the question. All those in favor will indicate by saying yes, contrary nay, and the agenda is carried as presented. Which brings us to item number 7, presentations, inquiries, and petitions. 7.1, inquiries by council members of the Kodiak Regional RCMP. This evening, we have the privilege of having Superintendent Jolette here. We are going to listen to him with great attention. Thank you, Your Worship, councillors, staff, and invited guests. Inspector Farah sends her regrets. Chantal is at a women's conference in law execution in Halifax. It's a conference that's held every year in the Atlantic, but in different areas. And it's a place where women involved in public safety can get together, connect, and recognize the good work being done by our women police officers. I'd like to start my presentation forthwith, and I'm available for your questions afterwards, as always. From October 16th to the 20th, we gave another training session to our mountain bikers. We gave the training to 4 new officers, and this is an excellent tool for visibility on the one hand, but also for some trails. And we saw that recently in the Rotary Park, where we were looking for a missing person. The police officers can cover a lot of ground on their mountain bikes. So we're going to continue to invest in their training to make sure we have the greatest number possible of our patrols can use these bikes. We also invested in some new bikes recently, and we're already thinking about the next steps. Are we looking at fat bikes or something like that? The Community Policing Office on Halloween evening deployed throughout the region to ensure the visibility and the safety of all those who went out trick-or-treating. And our members were able to have exchanges with some youth. And you might have seen stories on Facebook, but some of the police officers had Ghostbusters music on with their red lights, and they were yelling out to the kids as they were out on patrol. It was a great activity. Unfortunately, the same evening, we had a complaint about some candy that seemed suspicious. We tested the item after having seized it, and we recognized that there was it was tainted with an illegal substance. We take that very seriously, and the investigation is still underway. We received 2 other reports from the same sector, the Moncton North. And so we seized the items, and as soon as we find the person responsible, we will accuse them under the full possibility of the law. But I know that my little girl is still eating her candy from her bag, so it's something that can last for a few weeks or months. So if the parents see anything that is suspicious, please, we want to hear about it. Over the weekend, we had pleasure of being present at the Remembrance Day ceremonies in all 3 communities, including one at Mathieu Martin School, and I'd like to thank everybody who came to that. We had a good presence from the Kodiak RCMP. Over 20 officers were present at the 3 different ceremonies. And on November 25th, I would like to invite you to the Santa Claus Parade. Please come outside and encourage us. Everybody who participates in the parade, but especially the Kodiak RCMP, is going to be there in numbers. And our crime reduction unit, now over the last few weeks, we've had some very good results on the fight against drugs. We had the crime reduction unit worked with a number of units recently, and as I've already mentioned in the past, we have an integrated enforcement unit. There are 4 officers from the RCMP, 2 peace officers from the provincial department. They work just on drugs. And there's also a provincial crime reduction unit located here in Moncton, and our federal section of serious and organized crime. So over the last few weeks or the last months, we've all been working together to really focus on this, and we've had some very good results that I'll give you a few of. On October 19th, the officers were working on another case, and the CRE members, Crime Reduction Unit, saw a known drug dealer and a woman exchange some material by hand, a hand exchange, and they saw it from their car. Now, the clients were known drug users, and so they started watching these suspects, which led to an arrest a short distance away. Two men and a woman were arrested, and the search allowed them to find a good quantity of fentanyl, other drugs, and money, and these three people are facing charges. On October 24th, the team executed a search warrant on Elmwood Avenue in Moncton, arrested a man, and seized a major quantity of cocaine, crack, and money and other drugs. The team was working with the Miramichi police on this case. We often work with our colleagues from across the province. We had targeted a man and a woman from the Miramichi area that would come to our region to exchange money and drugs. Because of this investigation, we were able to arrest these people in Miramichi with the help of our team, and these people are now facing a number of charges after this the seizure of meth and other drugs and some prohibited firearms. November 9th was a busy day as well. We executed 6 search warrants, including in two locations here in Dieppe. And during that, 4 men and 2 women were arrested and are facing charges. During these searches, we were able to seize a large quantity of cocaine, meth, crystals, MDMA, which is ecstasy, a large amount of money, several firearms, and 6 luxury vehicles were seized as well as products of crime. Now, these investigations are ongoing, and I'm very satisfied by the work done by our team in partnership with the others, because it shows that all of the teams each have their focus, their mandate, but we were all able to work together in order to try and fight all of this illegal drug that is in the area. And this is something that happened on Main Street, not far away from here in Moncton. And I want to talk to you about the deployment when we talk about a serious incident. On November 1st, we received 2 calls indicating that 2 men were fighting. And in fact, there was a knife attack. One of the men was the victim of an attack by a knife. And so when these people arrived, well, the only way to explain it is to say that everybody, it doesn't matter if they're on patrol, in uniform, in a unmarked vehicle, if they're drafting a report at that time, everybody gets involved in that kind of call. Within 8 minutes, we had found the victim, we had given him the first aid, we had found the suspect very close by. We arrested the suspect for theft and assault, and we were able to collect evidence, and this person is facing charges. Whenever there is this type of major event, everybody who is at the police station goes to the incident. For example, there might be 15 or 20 police officers who are throughout the region this evening, but that day it was in the afternoon. We had 45 people who were able to go to the incident site immediately. So I was really impressed with that. And when I found out that it took 8 minutes to find the victim and the suspect and arrest him, I was very impressed. And then the provincial tactical traffic enforcement unit is very popular in the region. They were here on October 20th for an operation. And more specifically, this operation this traffic enforcement operation, and I think I've already mentioned it. We called it the vehicles that are not safe. So the members of they were accompanied by road safety members from public safety as well as the provincial vehicle inspectors. And during this one-day blitz, the members really focused on the areas that are where problems have been called about in the past. You know, we can't be everywhere, but when people call and say there are some heavy trucks, some big trucks going by in this intersection and they don't look safe at all. So we had this one-day blitz that that meant that 108 tickets were issued, one arrest warrant was executed, but 64 vehicles were escorted to the control site where licensed mechanics checked the vehicles. 26 of these 64 vehicles were towed after having been deemed to be dangerous, unsafe. So the towing companies were very busy that day. So the Tactical Traffic Enforcement Unit and the RCMP, the Kodiak, is going to continue its regular activities to make sure that the roads are safe. And I just talked to the person in charge of this provincial team, who's a good friend of mine in Bathurst, and he told me that they're already looking to choose their next date. So when they come, the results are very extreme because we really focus on road safety all day long. 4 or 5 officers work just on that. They don't respond to any other calls. But for us, it gives us really good results. But between these 40,000 calls per year that our patrollers respond to, I can guarantee that they're always looking for individuals who are driving dangerously, who are speeding, who have their cell phone in their hand, or don't wear their seatbelt. And that's my report. I'm here to answer your questions. Thank you. Thank you. And the inspector Farah would be very satisfied by your work here this evening. Thank you. I'm sure of that. Are there any questions for Superintendent Gillette? Councillor Turgeon-Roy. Thank you, Your Worship. It's an observation. You talked about Halloween a little earlier. I noticed this year, well, actually last year too, I noticed that more and more parents are accompanying children in the cars. So in terms of traffic, it was rather very difficult that evening, let's say, because there were vehicles on both sides of the road with children crossing the street in between. Did you notice that? Have you noticed it over the last few years? Yes, we have, and we've identified 2 people who were doing patrols that evening, 2 people who just did Halloween patrols, 2 supplementary officers, as well as our regular community police officers, in order to try and target certain areas, because we're seeing this more and more. And even if the houses are very close one to another, when it's cold out, you can see a line of cars go by the Magnetic Hill Zoo. We see side-by-sides for VTTs, ATVs, and there's all sorts of things on the road. So that's why we were there, to try and slow people down, to make sure that we were visible. And a number of vehicles were stopped the Halloween evening to warn them that they were driving too quickly. Thank you. And thank you for your presence as well during the ceremonies, the Remembrance Day ceremonies on November 11th. Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Brideau. Thank you, Your Worship. Superintendent Gillette, I've been sitting in this same spot for a few years, and I've always had things to complain about, but this evening I would like to congratulate you. You've been doing some great work. Please continue. We support you. Well, Councillor Brideau, I liked your complaints, though. I want to continue to hear them, and from all councillors, because, as I've often mentioned, we manage our resources and our patrols based on what we're told. So quite often people will say, oh, well, it's not worth calling. Yes, it is worth it. We want to hear your stories, your complaints. Even if it's just a minor problem, we're going to try and take care of it before it becomes a big problem. So once again, thank you. And as always, you're more than welcome to stay with us for the rest of the meeting, but I'm sure you can probably find something more important to do. Well, I'm interested in 7.3, Your Worship. 7.3, okay. Yes, of course. Of course you are. Thank you. Thank you for staying with us then. Thank you. And that brings us to 7.2, the public hearing on the proposed amendments to bylaw Z-10. And this is for a request on Artneth Street. Thank you, and we'll invite Nassim Sith-Rotman to present the public hearing, and then I will come back to read the letters we have received. Thank you, Mr. Nassim. Thank you, Your Worship, councillors. Thank you. The presentation, then, this is as within the public hearing following the request from Global Pet Foods Dogtopia, and this is a request to modify to amend bylaw Z-10 in order to allow for the use of a commercial kennel in a business and technology park. After my presentation, representatives of Global Pet Food and Dogtopia will come present all the way to add information. I'm going to first of all give you the timeline, including the critical dates. I'm going to explain the context and the description of the proposed project. We're going to give you an analysis of the IT zone. And in closing, we're going to talk about the proposed amendment. On October 10th, we started the amendment process. We had the public hearing was set for this evening, November 14th. It is to go to PAC tomorrow, November 15th, and council will have to make its decision at the regular council meeting of December 11th. So, in summary, this is for a request for 60 Ruffin Street, NID 703-93566 in the industrial zone of the IT business and technology park. The main uses in the area, mostly commercial activities. There are retail stores or service industry such as sports, daycare, medical center. The project then is would be a business partnership between Global Pet Foods and Dogtopia. The building that is under construction currently will have two different parts, two very separate parts. On the one hand, they will have the Global Pet Foods that is specialized in the sale of pet food and supplies. And on the other side, there will be a Dogtopia that is specialized in grooming and boarding for dogs. So Dogtopia is the IT zone does permit the use of pet grooming and washing, but does not permit a commercial kennel for dog boarding. This is not permitted in the IT zone currently. So that's why there's this request to amend it to allow for boarding of dogs. So in this rezoning request, and in order to receive the greatest number of comments possible, we held broad consultations. First of all, we had internal consultations with the different internal services and departments of the municipality. Now we had exchanges with a representative of the SPCA in order to get more information on the regulation in terms of animal welfare and protection. And then we had the notice of this public hearing was sent to all owners within the area of the IT zone. So in order to highlight some of the items that were analyzed, the use of the permission of a commercial boarding kennel here would be here. In the northern part of the IT zone, there's IP and IG, so the commercial kennel would be permitted just north of that, along with specific conditions. But on the other sides of the IT zone, a commercial kennel is not permitted because they are R2 and CM zones. So if you look at the area surrounding this IT, there are activities on one side where the boarding would be permitted, and we thought it would be better to study the question in order to allow a commercial kennel throughout the IT zone, but with a specific condition that would reduce the risks and any conflicts with the neighborhood, with the neighbors. So this is the reasoning that led us to this recommendation. The amendments proposed to the zoning bylaw then would be paragraph 7.31A would be amended by adding commercial kennel, subject to a condition that in the case of a commercial kennel use in an IT zone, the activity must be carried on solely inside the building. Thank you. If you have any questions. Thank you. Any questions at this point? Councillor Godbout. Thank you. Thank you. Great presentation. I do have a question. When we amend a zoning bylaw, could you remind us the type of notice that is given to the neighborhood? Who are the owners that are advised? And I know the people who are in the zone are affected, but are anybody in the surrounding areas, are they advised of the change? Well, normally we sent the notices to a radius of 100 meters around the lot, around the zoning change, except that the amendment would apply to the whole IT zone in this case. So we sent a notice to all the owners who are within 100 meters of the IT zone. So it's a fairly large area. Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Le Boutier. Thank you, Your Worship. I have a question, on the choice of word in 7.3. In case of a commercial kennel, the activity must be carried on solely inside the building. Shouldn't we say the operation rather than the activity? I mean, it might just be a detail, but it's an operation. It's not an activity, is it? I was just wondering about that. I just want to make sure that it actually includes the whole operation. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for your question. I don't share your opinion. I think activity is a preferable word than operation. I would recommend that we keep the word activity. Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Lantaigne. Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for your presentation. Now, following these different reports, I saw some emails from some businesses in the area that agree with the concept. Now, here it says consultation with the New-Brunswick SPCA. Could you give us a few more details on that? What was said? Is it something that is well regarded by the SPCA? Well, in our contact with the SPCA, we focused on the fact that would there be any problems if the activity is limited to an indoor, to inside the building? Would that cause problems? Would it not go against animal welfare? And we got a response by email that said, well, it's not a problem in terms of the regulations because there are conditions of ventilation that will have to be implemented in order to make sure that the animals are kept safe. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur Melançon. Est-ce que vous aviez...
Thank you very much, Councillor Melançon. Yes, we would now like to invite the different proponents of the project. I think that they have a presentation for councillors and for the public. I think it's Mr. Goulvet as well as Allison who will be speaking. I simply named the person who rose first. Good evening. Good evening, Your Worship and councillors, and anybody else listening to us. My name is Pierre Goulvet, and I'm with Colliers. And here are my two clients with me. I'd like to present them, Allison Kelly, Kieran Kelly, Jeff Kelly from Global Pets. And I also have Vince and Sandra Hustis, who will be the developers of the Dogtopia project. They are from Ontario, and they're newly arrived to our municipality. So we'd like to welcome them here. And it's time, to let them know where they can purchase properties in Dieppe. So I think that it's important to tell you a little bit more about what Dogtopia is, because it's not a commercial dog kennel. It's not what you would think immediately when you hear kennel. There's one in Nova Scotia, and this would be the first one in New-Brunswick. And it's becoming more and more popular everywhere in this model is becoming more and more popular everywhere in North America. So we were limited to we couldn't have video, which might have been better than hearing me speak. But anyway, we already have 235 of these types of kennels in North America. Dogtopia operates in commercial areas. Usually they're in different buildings or in shopping centers in bigger cities. They're not usually in industrial parks. They usually are surrounded by retail. Right now, there's 220 in Canada. There's 20 in Canada, and the closest one to us is in Halifax. Let's talk a little bit more about this type of industry so that you can understand a little bit more. We talked about Marc-Lantin earlier today, so let's now talk about pets in Canada. It's now worth $7 billion. There's been a huge growth in the last 15 years, and since COVID, it's even more. More than 44%, about 44% of households in Canada have a dog. So as you can tell, this industry is seeing growth, and in Dieppe, we need to welcome this new industry. So why is it growing like this? Well, because dogs are being treated more and more like humans. So baby boomers, for example, they no longer have children at home, so they take care of their dogs even better than they did of their kids. Money's not an object, so they are ready to pay for services for their dogs. And that's exactly what Dogtopia offers. We are being told that people who still work, they take their dog there every day, or people will take their dog while they go to the gym. And there's no questions asked. If they can't be with their dog, they drop it off at Dogtopia. So there's another operator in somebody else who offers this type of service in Dieppe, but there's a waiting list. So People who have a dog in Dieppe, they know that if they want to have a dog sitter in a kennel, they know they need to get on a wait list. So Dogtopia, as we've said, is usually in different commercial sites, and this is more or less what the layout looks like. So if you look at the bottom there, there's an entryway. It looks very professional. It almost looks like you're arriving at the dentist if you look at the reception area. And dogs then go through some kind of a screening to ensure that they can interact with other dogs safely. And Sandra could tell you all about these details, all the screening. And then they're integrated in one of three rooms, one for small dogs, one for medium-sized dogs, and one for larger dogs. The video was adorable. You could see dogs running around everywhere. But this is all inside. There's nothing outside. It's highly controlled. And Cassandra explained to us that and she can come speak later if there are any questions, but she works in a kennel right now, and they have an exterior section. But dogs usually they don't want to be outside when it's really hot, when it's really cold, if it's muddy, if it's rainy. Dogs like being inside. So it's a highly controlled environment. It's built for this, and that's what we see throughout North America in big cities. So what the layout that you've seen isn't exactly what we'll see, but there would be three rooms for sure. So three rooms for sure. And these rooms are full of sunlight, full of light. They're well lit. There's a lot of room for the animals. And it's like going to the park for the day. It's like going to the spa even. The dogs love it. It's like playtime for them. So a lot is done to control noise and odors. So if you go to the next screen, you'll see that there are protocols to control odors. This is cleaning that's done outside, but protocols are very similar for inside. So it's a synthetic rubber flooring. And if there's a problem, it's cleaned right away. It's cleaned up 3 times a day. They use a bioenzymatic digestion product for cleaning, and everything is built especially for this. Everything is set up for this type of cleaning. There's a very strict sanitation protocol in order to keep odors to a minimum. Now, the ventilation system is completely separate, and we even add extra to this site. So more ventilation to ensure that to ensure odor control, to ensure that air is clean. During COVID, it was said that the air was cleaner at Dogtopia than it was in retailers or nearby stores. So every 8 minutes, there is a complete change of air in the site. So there are walls that have different protocols that are applied to them in order to control sound. And this is done in every site. So as you can tell, you've already seen on Hartnett and Ruffin Street, well, Dogtopia will occupy one section. And after that, next door, it'll be Global Pet Foods. It's a great mix to have both of them together. There will also be a separate building where we have 4 units, and we're already working on those people right now. So it's, Ruffin Street, so it's a little punny. So that's where we have to be. We don't have a choice, really. These are good neighbors to have. Wherever Dogtopia is, there are no problems. They've been around for about 20 years. They're all over the place. They support businesses, local businesses. They also offer donations for support animals in the region. And I'm sure that people with Myra or other organizations would benefit from these donations. For retailers in the area, this brings clients and clients with money, clients who come often in the area, often more than once a week. So this is excellent for retailers in the area. It also creates a lot of jobs. It's a great family business. You can tell that Sandra and Vince have come here to set up this commerce, to set up this dog sitting business, and it's great for New Brunswick. And another thing that's not lost on me, everybody who works in the kennel, well, they're all dog trainers. There is a program that they need to follow. And dogs usually are better trained once they spend time at Dogtopia because they learn from these professional dog trainers during the day. So in general, this creates better canine citizens in our community. Dogs will be better behaved around other dogs. So whether these dogs are then in cycling or on the sidewalk or wherever they are better behaved in general. Perhaps Sandra has something to say. Maybe there are any questions.
Puis, est-ce qu'il y a peut-être des questions en détail sur le...
And if there are any questions, we'll be happy to answer. Do we have any questions from councillors? I was going to say. So Councillor Lanting is going to have to speak up here. Thank you very much. Yes, of course. Since I am a proud father of a more than 50-pound dog, yes, I am interested in this. It's a comment more than a question. Great presentation, and I thank you for it. And I see this very favorably. It's a very professional operation here, and I think that it's a great addition for our community, especially in that area of the city. So it was simply a comment. Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Godbout? Yes, I have a question, perhaps with regard to firefighting services. So this type of business, if ever there was a fire, are you equipped for that type of situation? Because you'd have to evacuate many dogs at the same time. So if ever there's a fire, is there anything, are there any particular considerations? Very good question. Right now, the animals would be put in vehicles of staff, and we'd have a plan with them in order to transport the dogs as needed.
Sur leur site, ils vont être capables d'avoir jusqu'à 93
They can
chiens.
have up to 93 dogs on their site because it's one dog per 30 meters. Yeah, same standards as a daycare for children. Okay. Okay, so we'll think about those details later. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Nothing else? Okay. Councillor Melançon, I think you have something you'd like to say? Yes, this is procedure we have to go through. And so we talked about a video. We can share this video later so you can really appreciate it and really understand everything that Pierre has shared with you today. So we've received 5 letters in support. First of all, Pentonium Corporation 22679.
Amendment to zoning bylaws Z10 2021, which has been brought to our attention through the public notice. Our interest in this matter stems from our position as the business situation immediately adjacent to the location earmarked for the potential commercial kennel. We are in favor of allowing a commercial kennel to operate within a business technology park zone IT. Provided that its operation are confined strictly to the interior of the building. We believe that this arrangement would be mutually beneficial, ensuring that the kennel can conduct its business while also maintaining the aesthetic and environmental standards of the business technology park. It is our understanding that this amendment is vital in fostering a diverse and vibrant business community, and we are confident that it will bring positive contribution to our area. We are prepared to extend our full support to this tenant occupancy contingent on the assurance that all kennel activities will be conducted indoors. Should you require any further information or wish to discuss this matter in more details, please feel free to reach out to us at our earliest convenience. We are more than willing to engage in dialogue to ensure that the implementation of this amendment serves the best interests of all parties involved. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Luc Bourgeois. I write on behalf of Plaza Corp Property Holdings Incorporated, and we are in the process of constructing a superstore and shoppers anchored retail development at the corner of Dieppe Boulevard and Rue Fin Road. We are in favor of the proposed amendment to bylaw Z10 2021 that would allow a commercial kennel to be operated within a building in the business and technology park zone. Please feel free to contact me should you wish to discuss. Thank you. Peter McKenzie. I am emailing you in favor of this zoning amendment to have a commercial kennel located in Dieppe in the technology park zone. I'm a Dieppe resident with a dog and would love to have a daycare for dogs in Dieppe. Thank you, Cindy King. J'ai entendu dire qu'il pourrait y avoir un Dogtopia à Dieppe.
I've heard that there might be a Dogtopia in Dieppe that is an indoor daycare for dogs, and it all depends on if Dieppe approves or not. I think that this would be very convenient with the growing population. There are more dogs in Dieppe and not enough daycares for dogs. And the fact that it's indoors, it helps because dogs' paws won't be as damaged as they would on rocks outside. So thank you very much for your consideration, Amy.
Support and the support of Mike's Bike Shop as a whole in regards to the proposed amendment of bylaw Z10. We see no issue with the proposal to allow indoor overnight commercial kenneling and look forward to the opportunity of adding more business to our area in Dieppe. Furthermore, I would like to add that the business and its operators at hand have had great success in other parts of Greater Moncton, offering quality customer service and building trust in the communities they service. We look forward to gaining a new neighbor and hope our office sees the value to be in amending the proposed changes. Jeff Gerhard, Director of Retail Operation, Mike's Bike Shop. Alors voilà, Monsieur le maire, les 5 correspondances reçues de cette...
Your Worship, those are the 5 letters received for this public hearing. Thank you very much. Are there any other comments? Does anybody here wish to add something? Whether it be a councillor or a member of the public? I don't see anybody. So thank you very much for this presentation.
L'item 7.3 maintenant.
We can now move to item 7.3. Everybody has been waiting for this with bated breath, maybe even impatiently. So presentation of 2024 budgets. So welcome to you, Mr. Thériault. Yes, thank you very much, Your Worship. Give me a second, please, just to get the presentation set up.
Et voilà. Donc,
there we go. So good evening, Your Worship, councillors, and to the general public. We are here tonight with the long-awaited budget 2024. So you've been hearing all about the budget in the last few weeks and months. So today I will remain focused on 2 things. First of all, I want to show what exactly it is that you will be authorizing tonight. Every slide that you will see will explain what you will be authorizing exactly. There are 4 resolutions, and the slides that I am presenting are really in line with these resolutions. And there's one tiny change that we've made since the last time I presented here. I had already given you a little heads up, so we will be decreasing loans, and I'll tell you about this in my presentation. You'll get more details. Now, for the operational budget, that is your first resolution. What will you be authorizing exactly tonight? Well, First thing, we see residential rates. So for Dieppe, it's 143, so that's a decrease of 3 cents. And
les anciens districts locaux
then there's the former local districts,
qu'on augmente de 5 sous, c'est-à-dire
where there's an increase of 5 cents.
donc à 59,45 ainsi que
So it
51
will
77
be a
pour les
59.47 and then 0.5177 for respectively Greater Lakeburn and Squiduk. After that, you will also be authorizing, you see it right here, a rate of 1.65. What does this mean exactly? Well, that is the non-residential ratio. So this helps us calculate the non-residential rate. So we take the 1.43, we multiply it by the ratio of 1.65, and that gives us the non-residential rate of 223.95 for non-residential in Dieppe, and the same calculation applies for Greater Lakeburn and Scudo. So that is part of what you will be authorizing tonight. Second, you will also be authorizing in the same resolution the total budget, $79.1 million, and part of this entire amount, it comes from property tax. So that is what the city of Dieppe will be getting through the province from property tax. And we've calculated this looking at residential and non-residential evaluations. And so 79.1 million, so you get 71.9 from tax rates. Expenses haven't changed either. If we go to the next slide, you can see salaries, external commissions, as well as paying off the debt, 6.2. So if we want to calculate the debt ratio, we take 6.2 and we divide it by 79.1, and that gives us about 7.8% of debt ratio for 2024. And that is it for general operational budget. If you have any other questions about this, I would be happy to answer them. Any questions from councillors? I do not believe so. So we can continue. Thank you. Now we can look at operational budget for water and sewer. A little bit like we just saw today, it's the second resolution. So we're talking here about a unit rate, 466 for water, 472 for wastewater or sewers, and total of 948 per unit. And unit means household or house. So for the user rate, if for residential and non-residential, we're looking here at user charge per unit of 198.33 and then 19667, and the total is 3.95 per cubic meter. How did we calculate this? Well, we have an equivalency rate. So a unit is 240 cubic meters of use per year. So we take the 476 and we divide it by that number, and it gives us 198 per cubic meter. So we also have the rate for Trans Aqua, which is $210 per unit. You will also be authorizing the total amount of budgets, $16.1 million, and almost 80% of revenue comes from billing for water and wastewater. And the difference is the transfer that we do from the general operating budget to $2.2 million and other revenues as well to make up the difference. Now, $16.1 million here, it is how it will be spent. Nothing has changed. Salaries, 3.77. Buying water from the city next door, $1.71 million. Wastewater treatment with Trans Aqua is 2.74 million, and etc. The total is $16.1 million total. So that is it for the water and wastewater operational budget. Now, for capital budgets, that would be your third resolution tonight. What exactly will you be approving? it will be a bit longer to read this resolution because there's a long list of projects that are being authorized for next year, for a total of $32.8 million from the General Capital Fund and $7.7 million for water and wastewater. So what you see here will be funded from gas tax, the reserves, and so on. But what has changed since last time, since I last presented this? Well, it's with regard to loans. Instead of being $7.4 million, it will be $3.4 million. So that's reduced by $4 million. And this will all come from the reserve fund for capitals. So we saw what was there and we were able to get $4 million to fund these projects. So we won't need to borrow as much money. It's a little bit the same principle for water and wastewater. So we see there $7.7 million of projects. So we have $1.2 million, and as you can see, for borrowing, it used to be 3.3 million, and we were able to reduce it to $2.1 million. So reduce it by about $1 million. And again, we got the money from the reserves in order to not have to borrow as much money. Now, the fourth resolution tonight is borrowing. So authorization for these loans. So $5,482,000 that is divided between general and water wastewater. So 3.382 million for the first category, and then $2.1 million. This is being spent especially for two projects. So the second phase for realigning the Thomas Street, so the roundabout there around Gauvin La France Street. It's about $4 million to do that, and we'll be borrowing about $1.9 million for the general funds, and then 600,000 for water and wastewater. After that, we'll also be extending the Aviation Avenue. It's a project that you're well aware of. It's been in discussion for 2 years now. It was authorized at $6.8 million, and 83% of this was to come from the federal and provincial governments and a smaller amount from the city. So this project that was $6.8 million, while costs have increased by $3 million. So this $3 million will be borrowing the money to pay for that. So 1.5 from the general budget and 1.5 from water wastewater. Now, to finalize my presentation, I want to show you impacts of what has it meant for us to reduce the amounts that we would be borrowing. So it's in blue here on the screen. You can see that we previously were borrowing $7.4 million, and it's now gone down to $3.4 million. So the debt ratio is much smaller. It's gone from 0.4 it's diminished by about 0.4 to 0.5 per year. So instead of being 8.6, it's now 8.2, and so on and so forth. So a lower debt ratio. And it's the same thing for water and sewer. We've diminished borrowing by $1.2 million. So it's gone down to $2.1 million. And once again, it's the debt ratio here that will be diminishing by about 1.6% in the future for water and wastewater. So about 16% and up to about 19%. And Your Worship, that is it for my presentation tonight, and I thank you very much. Thank you. Are there any questions from any councillors after hearing this presentation? Councillor Leboutier. Thank you very much, Your Worship. Reserve funds. At the end of this budget, or rather at the point where we are today, what are our capital reserves? I do not have the total amount right now before me. However, I can say that the strategy that I used was to keep a reasonable amount in reserves, so non-committed funds. So for general operational budgets or capital budgets in general, I keep $2 million there in case things could pop up in 2024 if projects were to cost more. So we have that security blanket. And same thing for sewers. I have about $1 million that has not been committed. Now, the balance of this for reserve funds, that is for managing. So perhaps we can invest a bit more in order to take into account that infrastructure might need to be changed in the future. So we've set money aside for that. But unfortunately, I don't have the total amount in mind right now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No questions. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. And we're going to see these items back on a little further down on the agenda, which brings us to questions by members of the public. We haven't received anything. So item number 9, adoption of minutes. We have the minutes of the regular council meeting held on October 23rd. Who would like to move the adoption? It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Ms. Jana and seconded by Councillor Thibodeau on the question. Councillor Thibodeau is away. Has he joined remotely? So he was present, yes. Which is allowed. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying yes. Opposed, no. So the minutes of the regular council meeting of October 23rd has been adopted as presented, which brings us to item number 10, different motions and memorandums and nominations, starting with 10.1.1, the general operating budget for 2024. Who would like to read the resolution? You're all shy this evening? Councillor Lantin. Thank you, Your Worship. That Council resolved that the sum of 79,000, yes, 79,081,101 be the local government's total budget, that the sum of 71,845,339 be the warrant of the local government for the ensuing year, that their non-residential ratio as well as the heavy industrial ratio be 1.65, and that the residential tax rate be 1.43 for the former city limits of the city of Dieppe, 0.5945 for the former city limits of Greater Lakeburn, and 0.5177 for the former city limits of Scoudouc. That Council order and direct the levying by the Minister of Environment and Local Government of said amount on real property liable to taxation under the Assessment Act within the local government of Dieppe. And I so move, Your Worship. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Lantin, seconded by Councillor Brideau on the question. If none, all those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying yes. Contrary, nay. It's carried as presented. 10.1.2, the 2024 water and wastewater disposal operating fund budget. Who would like to read the resolution? Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. That Council accept, pursuant to subsection 117(4) of the Local Governance Act, that the total water and wastewater disposal operating budget for the coming year will include revenues of $16,092,187 and expenditure of $16,902,187 $92,187. That pursuant to the bylaw respecting water and sewage systems, the user charge per unit for the year 2024 be set as follows: $476 for the water utility and $472 for the wastewater disposal service. That the metered water rate for the year 2024 be set at $1.9833 per cubic meter, and that the user charge for the wastewater disposal service for metered customers for the year 2024 be equal to a percentage of the amount of the water rate, this percentage being determined by dividing the current wastewater disposal rate by the current water rate. This calculation provides us with a user charge for the wastewater disposal service of 1.9667 per cubic meter for the year 2024. And I so move, Your Worship. Been moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Lantaigne. On the question, Councillor Godbout. Thank you, Your Worship. Just a point of clarification. You talk about water meters for 2024. Have these resolutions, the resolutions on the use of water meters, has that been done and adopted? We had nothing left to discuss about this. Here we're talking about water meters for commercial customers. I think what you are referring to was the pilot project for 2024. That's two very different things. This is for institutional commercial customers. Thank you. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It's carried as presented, which brings us to 10.1.3, the 2024 Capital Projects Program and the project list. Who would like to read it? Councillor Jeannin. Thank you, Your Worship. That Council authorized the following projects under the 2024 Capital Projects Program. General capital budget, $32,800,000. 1. Land purchase. A. Future trails. B. Sports fields. C. Downtown. 2. Roundabout. La France-Gauvin intersection. 3. Future project. 4. Trail. Melanson and Fox Creek Roads. 5. Aviation Avenue, Phase 2B. 6. Active Transportation Connection, Lorette Street. 7. Asphalt Preservation Program. A. Microsurfacing, various streets. B. Improvements, Champlain-Acadie intersection. C. Water system replacement, Chartersville Road, from Corvette Street to Champlain Street. D. A crosswalk on Dieppe Boulevard. E. Asphalting of various streets. 8. Asset management program. 9. Plans and specifications for 2025 projects. 10. Purchase of new equipment. A. Two charging stations. B. 1 generator for the Uniplex. C. A fence. D. An automated flagger assistance device. And E. Bus shelters. And then we have the water and wastewater disposal capital budget, $7,700,000. 1. Aviation Avenue, Phase 2B. 2. Water system replacement, Chartersville Road, Corvette Street to Champlain Street. 3. Improvements, Champlain-Acadie intersection. 4. Roundabout, La France and Gauvin intersection. 5. Future project. 6. Sewer repair. 6. Sewer repair, Amiro Street. 7. Asset management program. And 8. Plans and specifications 2025 project. And I so move. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Deputy Mayor Janin and seconded by Councillor Thibodeau. On the question? No questions. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It's carried as presented. 10.1.4, Councillor Turgeon-Roy. That Council authorize an application to borrow the sum of $5,482,000 be submitted to the Municipal Capital Borrowing Board in order to finance the following projects. General capital budget, A, transportation-related services, roundabout La France-Gauvin intersection, $1,882,000. The extension of Aviation Avenue, Phase 2B, $1.5 million. The water and wastewater disposal capital budget, B, environmental hygiene services, roundabout La France-Gauvin intersection, $600,000, and Aviation Avenue extension, Phase 2B, $1.5 million, at an interest rate to be determined by the board for a maximum period of 15 years for the general capital budget and for a maximum period of 20 years for the water and wastewater disposable capital budget, and that Council authorize the City of Dieppe to borrow on an interim basis an amount not to exceed $5,482,000 at the prime lending rate until long-term financing is arranged. And I so move, Your Worship. It's been moved by, moved by Councillor Turgeon-Roy, seconded by Councillor Brideau on the question. If not, all those in favor of this will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It's carried as presented. Which brings us to operations. No, engineering. I'm sorry, engineering. Before that, engineering services, roundabout at the La France-Gauvin intersection. Councillor Leboutillier. Thank you, Your Worship. That Council authorize EXP Services, Inc. to undertake engineering services for the project entitled Roundabout La France-Gauvin intersection at the cost of $150,000 plus HST, and further authorize this expenditure be defrayed from account number 3-3-35-58-7667, General Capital Budget, Thomas Street Realignment, and account number 4-3-90-58-7667, Water and Sewer Capital Budget, Thomas Street Realignment. And I so move. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Leboutillier, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau on the question. Councillor Janin. Thank you, Your Worship. I had a question looking at the document. People who live around that intersection, have they been consulted? The question is around the roundabout, you mean? Well, the preliminary plans for this roundabout have been in the works for a few years now. So the city purchased a certain number of properties around the intersection. So yes, people were advised that this is the way that we were going to go forward, that would encourage circulate traffic the best. And so yes, I'd say that yes. Because when we look at the picture here, there are two homes. I don't understand where they're going to come out from their property. Their driveway. Seems to go directly onto a sidewalk. I don't know if the image is really what the reality is. Sometimes the pictures we have here are not really up to date. Mr. Cormier, yes, it's more or less this. Of course, the plans have to be finalized. It'll be a little different by then. But I think the house that you're talking about here on at the bottom right, well, the driveway, we had planned that the driveway be from the extension of Thomas Street. So it's the road that'll be there in a few years, but there will be access starting from the construction of the next phase. But the property right beside that house was purchased by the city. So yeah, but there are two houses to the right. And you can see that it looks pretty complicated to get out their driveway. And I was just wondering about the safety. How is it going to work for them? Yeah, we're going to have to talk to these people too, and we'll have to accommodate as much as possible. So if there's any safety issues, we're going to try and minimize the risk as much as possible. During the design phase, the plans could change right up until the last minute as well. Thank you. Thank you. Any further questions? If not, all those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It's carried as presented. Which brings us to 10.3.1, a contract award for the fine-tuning of radio communication system for the water meters. Who would like to read the resolution? Councillor Turgeon-Roy. Thank you, Your Worship. That Council authorized the purchase of services from Kelly's Consulting and Municipal Services Limited at the cost of $74,760 plus HST in regards to fine-tuning the radio communication system for the quarterly reading of the ICI water meters. That Council authorized an additional expense of $9,500 plus HST towards said project for unforeseen circumstances that may lead to additional work at the hourly rate of $95 plus HST, and that is only if necessary. That Council authorized that these expenditures be defrayed from account number 2-2-90-90-4975, water and sewer operating budget, water meters. And I so move it, Your Worship. It's been moved by Councillor Turgeon-Roy, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau. On the question? No questions. Councillor Leboutier, yes. Thank you, Your Worship. It was a question of information. In the details here, we have a summary of the information here, but if I understand correctly, we're going to hire this company because we have radio communication systems that might be defective. They're going to analyze them and replace them, or just replace the ones that are really not working, or are they all going to be replaced? Or could somebody explain? Thank you. Yes, thank you. I'm sorry, excuse me. Yeah, we're going to replace 126 of these radio emitters out of the 632 industrial, commercial, and institutional water meters. We have an idea of which have to be replaced. It's wherever we have trouble reading the water meters remotely, because this will allow them to read the water meters. We have 126 that have been identified. The additional amount is in case we have a few more, or that we have to move some water meters in a building that might cause some additional expenses. But we think we'll pretty well respect the budget as proposed. So we're going to replace 126 out of 632. And is it normal that there are so many? It's almost 20% of them that are defective. Is it the same situation in other municipalities? Well, sometimes it's a question of the structure of the building. We've had trouble reading a certain number of them for quite some time. We have to go into the buildings to read them. In terms of efficiency, it's a question of having the resources necessary. If we can do the readings remotely, it's much more efficient for us, and the information is immediate. If we have a complaint of high consumption by a user, we can go take a reading directly remotely. So it's very helpful. It offers help us offer better client service as well. But this is what we mean. It's a question of resources, a question of efficiency. Any further questions? If not, all those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying yes. Contrary, nay. And it's carried as presented. 10.4, PAC recommendation. 10.4.1, recommendation of the PAC for a conditional amendment. Amendment of the conditions and on zoning bylaw Z-10-1, PID 706245358-88 Sunset Street Horizon Place. Would somebody like to read the resolution? Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. That Council accept the recommendation made on October 18th, 2023 by the Planning Advisory Committee in regards to a request to modify the resolution registered at the Registry Office under number 37203840 on July 21st, 2017, relating to zoning bylaw Z-10-1 in order to repeal the condition mentioned below, 2.1A1, multiple unit dwelling up to a maximum of 162 dwelling units, and replace it with the following 2.1A1I, multiple unit dwelling up to a maximum of 123 dwelling units. It's been moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Chiron on the question. No questions. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. And the recommendation is carried as presented.
Ça nous amène presque à la fin du côté des
That
arrêts.
would bring us practically to the end. There's nothing with regard to bylaws, notice of motion. I don't think we've gotten anything as well. Now, inquiries and announcements by members of council. We are at point 13 now. So let's try and shake things up a little bit. Let us speak with Councillor Godet. Thank you very much, Your Worship. There's a few things I'd like to bring up. Now, the Santa Claus Parade will be held November 25th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. in case you weren't aware of this parade. And another little point of information, I got an email for asphalting on Amiro Street, and I have an email here from somebody saying that they are thanking us for redoing the asphalt completely instead of just patching it up. So they say, I would like to really thank whoever decided to go ahead with this work. So I'm just saying it because people do appreciate our work. And, you know, people don't write to us only to ask for things. Sometimes they're just being polite and thanking us. Yes, it's so nice sometimes to just get thank yous without having additional costs. Okay, well, thank you very much to you, Councillor Godet. Now, Councillor Leboutier, thank you very much, Your Worship. I have two questions right now, two points of information. Now, Thomas Street, it's the street that we've talked about all evening. There's part of it that is under construction right now. Is that the unpaved section? Is that, will that be done by winter? Mr. Cormier? I think I know which section you're referring to. It's a new street? Yes. Well, I am told that yes, it will be done shortly, but I don't have a specific date. However, I've gotten several comments about this, and we are very well aware. Okay, well, we'd have to make sure because winter's coming quickly, and it will make quite the difference if we can pave the road. Yes, it is an obligation, so we will make sure that we follow up. Great, thank you very much. I have another question with regard to the corner at Thomas and Central. I'm wondering if we can look at lighting. When you're there in the evening, there's a little section. I'd almost say it's not safe because there's not enough lighting in that area, especially when you walk along Central. There's no homes there, it's just very dark. And several people who like to walk around that area have told me that we need more lighting in that area. So I'd like us to look into that. Now, something a bit more positive. Our technical director for soccer, Dieppe, was just nominated, so I'd like to congratulate her on behalf of everybody in the municipality. She was just chosen to be manager of our national women's soccer team for U17. So congratulations to her. It's quite a special nomination. And can we have her name? Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Her name is Natalie Fleming. Thank you for reminding me. I will also send you something else that I've received from a resident. I won't name them because I didn't ask for permission to do so. But in Quebec, in the last year, several municipalities have changed in sectors. Well, I know that we've reduced, we have speed bumps close to schools, and there are also different guidelines. It's now been reduced to 30 kilometers an hour. That has been done in Quebec. So perhaps we can do the same in our municipality. But what really struck people is that if a car is going 30 kilometers an hour, and we realize that's slow, but there's a 90% survival rate if somebody gets hit by a car going 30. So that's it for me. I thought these were important points, and I wish everybody a good week. Thank you very much, Councillor Genet. Thank you. I don't have anything to bring up tonight. I'd simply like to wish you a good evening. Councillor Brideau, thank you very much, Your Worship. I don't have anything to bring tonight. So good evening to all of you. Thank you very much, Councillor Thibodeau. There's one thing here, a citizen who brought up issues near Canaan. So if somebody wants to turn left, it blocks traffic, and I hear that it's sometimes people have to wait up to 10 minutes if they want to turn even right because they're blocked by a car that wants to turn left. Could we add 2 lanes? Could there be a lane for cars turning left and others for cars turning right? Councillor or Mr. Cormier? I have to see how wide the street is there. I don't think there's a specific turning lane right now, but we know that there's also lights nearby, traffic lights around Lakeburn. I don't know if there's room, perhaps we can paint and add lines, add lanes to make it easier. Well, another solution is to not allow people to turn left in that area if it's not wide enough. Yeah, that's an option we could look at. Okay, thank you very much. Right, it would be much safer to use Lakeburn. It would be much better controlled, so that's a good suggestion. Thank you very much. Councillor Turgeon-Roy. Thank you very much. Well, I would like to take a few minutes right now to congratulate a doctor from our city who's just been recognized. Dr. Lise Babet recently obtained the Family Doctor Prize, Family Doctor for 2023, and this is a nationwide prize. She's very well known in our region. She's also, I believe, a medical manager in UMF, which is a clinic here in Dieppe. It's a well-deserved prize, and I wish to congratulate her for this Canada-wide prize. Thank you very much. I'm convinced that everybody will be able to support this great news. Councillor Capoue. Yes, thank you very much. I'd simply like to thank the team for the budget process. It's never easy, but we got through it, and I really appreciate everybody's work. And I'd like to thank you for all the details and transparency. You're always open to our comments. There's a lot of discussion, and yes, sometimes it's difficult, but it's a very worthwhile process. And I would like to congratulate you. Thank you very much. Thank you. You've just saved me from, you've just saved me a few minutes. Councillor Lanting? Nope, nothing on my part. Thank you very much. Okay, well, since the thank yous I was going to say have just been said, I'd like to wish you all a good evening. So I'd like to wish you all a good evening, and we'll see you shortly. And I'd especially like to thank all of our staff, as well as all of our councillors. We've just gone through an exceptional year, a great year, and it will surely become more and more difficult year after year to have record years like we've had. But according to the rumors that I hear, it's going to be a great year next year as well. That being said, we, I'm sure, will have the opportunity to send good wishes for the next year. We'll be able to do that over the next month. So thank you very much. Have a great evening, everyone.